The board of directors of the Guyana Chronicle took a unanimous decision to dismiss former general manager of the Guyana Chronicle, Sherrod Duncan, last week. The board, chaired by Gita Chandan Edmond, made its decision after an audit report of the newspaper under the 3-month tenure of Duncan found over 20 financial transactions that did not follow the company's regulations. However, Duncan is now seeking to clear his name. In an interview with Nightly News, Attorney-at-Law James Bond, who has been retained by Duncan, opined that the grounds on which the board sacked Duncan highlights that the case was not properly reviewed.
Strangely enough, all of the matters, with the exception of 2 financial matters, were not within Mr. Duncan's direct remit. Even though he served as the general manager, there was a finance controller. And all of the transactions had to touch and concern the finance controller. Only two of the transactions, Mr. Duncan, we could have said was integrally involved, and that is his trip to New York to relaunch, I think it was in Wave magazine, and a trip to Lethem.
The audit found that under Duncan's tenure, tenders rules were breached, services were procured without contracts, and approvals were given for payments without the regular procedure of the company's stamp or signature. But Bond noted that permission for his client's trip to New York was granted by the Office of the Prime Minister. The lawyer further noted that in Duncan's position as GM, his actions would have had been permitted by the same board.
We recognize from the report itself that there were not sufficient grounds for dismissal. The report specified disciplinary action for the officers, which means that there is more than one, because the finance controller and the acting general manager and the person in charge of human resources, they were also, I don't want to use the word culpable, but they had a greater degree of involvement than Mr. Duncan.
He claimed that the actions of the board on the day of the decision was not in keeping with what was recommended in the report presented to the board by auditing firm Chatram Ramdihal Chartered Accountant Professional Services.
We believe that his dismissal is quite unfortunate. It's wrongful, and today I'm supposed to send off that appeal to the Office of the Prime Minister based on these grounds for him to review the decision of the board. If the Office of the Prime Minister does not respond favorably, then our recourse obviously will be in law to the courts. Since I think this a bit of an injustice has been done to the young man.
Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.